everyone, my name is Mariah and welcome to my channel Totally Spines. In today's video I wanted to go through all the books that I have on my red shelf and see if it would be books that I would recommend to you guys. So let's just jump right into it. Like, these books, don't mind these. So I'm gonna go through my books and I'm gonna do a yes, no, or maybe. So let's get into it. The first one is Last Word by Taylor Adams. Now that I'm looking at it, this wouldn't technically be a book that I would want to keep on my bookshelf, so I'm going to put it in the pile of books that I have over here that I'm going to unhaul probably at the end of the year. But basically, Last Word is about this woman who's house sitting for someone, and she reads a book and she doesn't like it, so she gives it a 1-star rating, and the author reaches out to her and basically tells her to, remove the rating, and she keeps it. So it appears that the author knows where she is currently living and he's going to kill her. So yeah, I will say that it had me in the first half, but the rest I could have done without. It's not a book that I know I'm going to reread in the future, but it definitely is something that I would give a maybe to. Next one is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. I would recommend this book. It has two different timelines. Basically, in the 1980s, there's this woman named Viv who works at this motel, the Sundown Motel, and she goes to work her shift, but she works late night shift, and by the morning time she has disappeared. And then in the 2017, her niece decides, oh, I want to know what happened to her. So she goes to where her aunt last worked at, got a job there, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. It is a paranormal thriller. I do recommend it. It does have some eeriness to it that I enjoyed. So I definitely would recommend this book. The next one is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I know a lot of people rave about this author and this book particularly. As for this book, I would give it like a maybe. I only say that because the main female character, Hannah, I feel like she fell in love with this man out of nowhere. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say nowhere because he is a good guy, but I felt like the love for him didn't make sense to me. And I'm trying to think, would this be something I would want to reread in the future? This is a hard one because in a way I don't technically love their romance, but I like the other aspects of her being a bodyguard, the issue with her ex and her friend. I did like those parts, so it's kind of hard. So it's definitely a maybe for me, so I'm going to keep this for now. Next one is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. I really enjoyed this one, so I would recommend this book to you. Next one is P.S. I Love You by Casey West. Honestly, I forgot about this book, so this is a maybe. I mean, it's like an enemies to lovers type of situation. Basically, it's a young adult romance and it's enemies to lovers, where the main character Lily, she writes on her desk, and then somebody happens to sit at the desk in a different class period, and they write to her, and then they're having like a back and forth conversation with each other. So yeah, I like this one. It kind of reminded me of another enemies to lovers type of situation, and I realized I read them around the same time, and I realized I like that one better. I like this one better than the other one. So this one is a maybe. Next up is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, or Poston. I think it's Poston. Anyway, I know a lot of people love this book, but it was just okay to me. I like the magical realism. I do like it. But honestly, this is a maybe to me. But like, I don't know. I felt like the love wasn't memorable to me. Next up is See You Yesterday by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I would recommend this book. They give more of a scientific approach of why everything is happening for this book, and I did annotate it. Can you tell? Yeah, I annotated it a bit. But basically, these two characters, they are in a time loop, and they're trying to figure out why they're in this time loop. Technically, the guy was in the time loop before her. Yeah, I do recommend this book. Next up is The Do-Over by Lynn Pater. I would recommend this book. I did enjoy it. It's another time loop romance. I remember I read this around the time I read See You Yesterday, and this one, the main character, she is in a time loop on Valentine's Day when she finds out that her boyfriend cheated on her. So yeah, I did like this one. I think I gave this one a 4.5 stars. Next up is Lying in the Deep by Deanna Urban. I believe I have I've read 3 books by this author, and this one is basically the main character. She goes on a cruise for college, where you're just going to different countries and you get credits for that. Like, that seems like such a dream. And basically her ex-best friend and ex-boyfriend are on the same cruise, and then someone ends up dead, and people are kind of looking at her as if she did it. Everybody's suspicious of her of doing it because of her history with her ex-best friend and ex-boyfriend. So I did like that. It was such a fun time. So I would recommend this book. Next one is Eat Your Heart Out by Kelly DeVos. This one's like a 0 to 100 real quick zombie apocalypse situation. So the main character, she is going to a fat camp. How this is set up, I like this. Like this page, I tabbed it, but basically all the characters that are main characters in the book, they are like set up like a horror. It's like set up like a horror movie, like you know, the final girl, the nerd, the outcast, the wild card, the jerk, you know, things like that. Like all these different types of people, who is going to survive at the end, kind of thing. I did like that aspect, and I did think it was interesting that they were going to a fat camp. Oh man, I'm remembering that one part. I do recommend this book. Initially when I read this book, I gave it a 5 stars, but I think I'm gonna bring it down to 4.75 because there was like one thing that I wanted to change about this book. But I would recommend this book if you want like a 0 to 100 real quick and something unique about a zombie apocalypse. So next, I'm gonna do 2 books, and this is The Infinity Courts and The Genesis Wars by Akima Don Bowman. Supposedly there's supposed to be a 3rd book, but there hasn't been any announcement about it yet, and I'm very upset about that. But anyway, basically with the first book, I'm not gonna mention the 2nd book because it might, you know, be a spoiler. But basically, our main character, she, you know, passes away. She went to the gas station to go get something for a party that she's going to, but the gas station gets robbed, and the person that's robbing it ends up killing her, and she ends up in the afterlife where it's basically run by AI, like Alexa basically is running the afterlife, and you know, there's like a resistance trying to rise up to take back the afterlife, and she's caught up in the middle of this. So yes, I would recommend these. The next one is Going Dark by Melissa De La Cruz. This one is about a girl named Amelia Ashley. She's an influencer, and she goes on a trip with her boyfriend, but she ends up not coming back, and everybody's suspecting her boyfriend of possibly killing her. So everybody's trying to figure out what happened to her, and it has multiple points of views, like Amelia Ashley before she disappeared, her boyfriend, a random hacker, and another girl that went missing, basically. So all their points of views are very important. So yeah, I would recommend this book. I enjoyed it. I gave it a high rating. I think I gave it a 4.5 or a 4.75 stars. I did really enjoy this book. So yeah, get this book. Next one is How to Be the Best Third Wheel by Lori D. Davila. This was a 5-star read for me. Look at all these tabs. which is interesting because it's a YA enemies to lovers romance, and the ending was something. It was bittersweet, but I do recommend this book. Next one is called The Night She Disappeared by April Henry. This is a yes. This is 0 to 100 on the first page. So basically, the girl that disappears, she works at a pizzeria. She goes to deliver a pizza, but she never returns. And it turns out the girl that went on the delivery, she wasn't meant to work that day. She took the shift of another person, which the kidnapper was actually supposed to take. So it's multiple POVs. It's such a fun time. There's so many emotions with it. I will say that there's like certain parts at the end of the book that I didn't particularly like, but it doesn't hinder the book in any way. I still really enjoy this book. So it's like, initially it was a 5-star for me, but I think it's 4.75. But I highly recommend this book if you want a thriller. Next one is These Deadly Games by Deanna Urban. This is like everything happens within 24 hours kind of books. This one's our main character. She gets a text from someone saying that they kidnapped her little sister and they have to do these tasks in order to get her sister back. And she can't call the police, she can't tell her parents or her friends or anything like that. She has to do what they say. And at first, it doesn't seem like it's that serious because they're like, oh, put this in a locker, bake these brownies, make this phone call. Everything doesn't seem insidious, but they're all setups to basically harm her friends. And then it's just like, what is going on? But yes, this is a book I recommend. Next one is Stay Awake by Megan Golden. 100%. 100%. I recommend this book. Okay, the main character, Liv, she's in the back of a cab. She's going home, but then her home is not her home because there's people living there and they've been living there for a whole year. And she has no idea like what's happening. She's trying to call her boyfriend. She's trying to call her roommate. Nobody's answering. And in addition to that, she has a bloody knife in her back pocket. Why? And in addition to that, she has writing on her hands that says stay awake. You forget everything every time you do, basically. So she has to figure out what's going on. Like she's thinking to herself, like, what's the last thing I remember? Last thing she remembers is 2 years ago. What the flip happened to her? All I'm saying, this always recommend. I love this book. Next up is At Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hilbert. This is a maybe. I have the other two books. I have not read them yet. This is the last book in the Brown Sisters, series, and they're all standalone. And I feel like since it's the third book and I didn't read the other two, even though I have them, I was really interested in Eve Brown. I like her, personality. But this is like a maybe. I'm not sure if I would reread this again, because I wouldn't say it's an instant love kind of situation, but I do feel like this is like a maybe, and I don't see myself rereading this book again. Next up is Five Survive by Holly Jackson. Yes, absolutely, I recommend. A group of friends are going on a road trip and they get stuck in the middle of nowhere, and someone is basically not letting them leave from the middle of nowhere, and that's it. That's all I'm going to tell you. But it's like a span of within 24 hours. I think it's 8 hours. But yeah, I recommend this book. This would be a book I would reread in the future. Next up is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder and Killjoy. I haven't read the other two books yet, but I do have them. I do plan to do a reading vlog about them, but I would recommend these. This is a good time. I feel like it needs no introduction. It's a good time. Next up is Dying to Love by Reese Rivers. This is a 5-star for me. I know it's not a 5-star if I wasn't biased, but look at all these tabs. I love this book. I reread it every year. I am due to reread this year, so I need to set this out. But basically, it's a zombie apocalypse reverse harem. The main character, Kelsey, she hasn't been around another living person for over a year. And then these four guys are being chased by a horde, and then they end up where she is, and it's like a cutesy love story, but in the midst of grief and, you know, isolation of, you know, taking your life kind of situation and all that. It's like I have different emotions every time I read this book. But yes, I would recommend this book. Dying to Please by Linda Howard. I recommend this book. I read this book like many years ago. So this is like a book I need to reread to make sure it's something that I would still recommend. But from my thought process, I would. I'm trying to remember. Okay, so the main character, she is a butler. So she's a female butler. So people don't realize that, you know, women could be butlers too. And every employer that she goes to, they end up dying, and the lead investigator that's investigating these deaths think that she's responsible. But it's a romantic suspense, okay? So they do have feelings for each other, so but someone is stalking her. Next up is Fever by Maya Banks. This is a part of a standalone series. This is an erotic book, so I'm not, this is like a maybe if you're into that kind of thing. So I'm not sure, but I do love this one. So next one is Girls Save the World, and this one by Ash Parsons. I recommend this book. This happens within one day. So basically these best friends go to ZombieCon, where, you know, they, you know, as the name implies, it's about zombies. And what do you know? The zombie apocalypse happens at ZombieCon. It's such a fun time. I think initially I gave it a 5 stars, but I'm going to give this book a 4.75 stars because there is a subplot of romance in here, and I kind of wish there was more to it. Like, this book is 500 pages deep, and I kind of wish the romance went a little bit further in here, like a little earlier on, because you don't get the romance until like probably 200 pages in, I think. But yeah, I do recommend that one. The Heartstopper series by Alice Osman. I do recommend this series. It's about two boys that fall in love in high school, and, you know, they're, you know, it's coming of age kind of thing. So I do recommend them. They're graphic novels. They're pretty quick to get through. I do recommend them. And lastly is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. It's been a while since I've read this one. I haven't read the whole Inheritance Games series, but it is a fun time. But I feel like there should have been more mystery within this, if this makes sense. But I do recommend it. Okay, so those are all the books on my red shelf that I'm keeping. And yes, no's, maybes. Hopefully you did find some books that you are interested in. Do let me know in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it, enjoy it, give it a support. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!